Welcome to Books and Storytime by mybooksummary.com. Get ready. Navigate for quick wisdom of countless stories. Let's dive into the world of knowledge together and explore. The Three Little Pigs. Once upon a time, in a sunny meadow at the edge of a vast forest, there lived three little pigs. Now, these weren't just any ordinary pigs. No, these were some of the most ambitious pigs you'd ever meet. They weren't content with just rolling in the mud or nibbling on acorns. No, sir. These pigs had dreams of building their own houses and living life on their terms. The three pigs were brothers, each with their own unique personality. The eldest was Practical Pig, who was always thinking ahead, planning, and making lists. He was the kind of pig who liked things to be just so, and he had a knack for building things that lasted. The middle brother, Fiddly Pig, was more of an artist. He loved to play music, paint, and enjoy the finer things in life. Building a house wasn't exactly his forte, but he figured he could whip something up when the time came. The youngest brother, Silly Pig, was the most carefree of the three. He lived in the moment, never worrying about the future, and thought life should be one big adventure. One day, the pigs decided it was time to leave their mother's cozy sty and build homes of their own. A pig's got to be independent, after all, Practical Pig declared, adjusting his little piggy glasses. Their mother, a wise old sow, gave each of them a kiss on the snout and sent them on their way with a packed lunch of apple cores and leftover slop. Just remember, she warned, watch out for the big, bad wolf. He's always looking for his next meal. The pigs nodded, though Silly Pig was already daydreaming about something else entirely. Maybe a game of hide and seek with some butterflies, or a mudslide down the hill. Practical Pig rolled his eyes at his brother but kept his focus on the task ahead, building the perfect house. As they wandered through the meadow, the three pigs came upon a patch of straw. Silly Pig's eyes lit up. "This is perfect," he squealed. "I'll build my house out of straw. It'll be quick, and then I can spend the rest of the day playing." Practical Pig frowned. "Straw isn't very sturdy," he cautioned. "What if the wolf comes?" But Silly Pig wasn't one for long discussions. He quickly gathered the straw, piled it up, and in no time at all, he had constructed a cozy, albeit flimsy, little house. It wasn't much, but it had 4 walls and a roof, and Silly Pig was thrilled with his handiwork. "I'm done," he cheered, and off he went to frolic in the meadow, leaving his brothers behind. Fiddly Pig watched Silly Pig dash off, shaking his head. "Straw might be easy, but I want something with a little more style." A bit farther down the path, Fiddly Pig came across a stack of sticks. "Perfect," he said, clapping his hoofs together. "Sticks will make a charming little cottage. Rustic, yet artistic." And so, Fiddly Pig set to work, arranging the sticks into a neat little structure. It took him a bit longer than Silly Pig's straw house, but he enjoyed the process, humming a tune as he worked. When he was done, he stepped back to admire his creation. It was a picturesque little house with a stick chimney and even a stick garden fence. Pleased with himself, Fiddly Pig decided it was time to take a well-deserved break, and he too left to enjoy the day, his mind drifting to thoughts of his next masterpiece. Practical Pig, however, wasn't so easily satisfied. He knew that the only material for a solid, wolf-proof house was bricks. After all, you don't spend hours planning and making lists just to have your house blown away by a gust of wolf breath. So, while his brothers were off playing, Practical Pig sought out a pile of sturdy bricks and got to work. Building a brick house was no easy task. It required patience, effort, and a lot of sweat. But Practical Pig was determined. He laid each brick carefully, making sure it was perfectly aligned, and he used the strongest mortar he could find. The sun was beginning to set by the time he placed the last brick on his sturdy little house. But when he was done, he knew it had been worth every minute. His house stood strong and proud, ready to withstand anything. Meanwhile, back in the meadow, the big, bad wolf had caught wind, quite literally, of the three little pigs. He had been wandering through the forest, trying to figure out what to have for dinner, when the scent of fresh pork wafted through the trees. His mouth watered as he imagined a tasty piggy feast. "3 little pigs," he mused, That should be enough to fill my belly for a week. The wolf, with a grin that would make anyone nervous, followed the scent until he reached the meadow. The first house he came upon was Silly Pig's straw hut. The wolf couldn't believe his luck. Well, 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 he chuckled to himself. This should be easy. He knocked on the door. More of a polite tap, really, since the door was made of straw, too. Little pig, let me come in," he called out in a sing-song voice. Silly Pig, who was lounging in a pile of hay inside, wasn't too worried. After all, he had a door, and doors are for keeping things out, right? "Not by the hair on my chinny chin chin," he shouted back defiantly. The wolf smirked. "Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in." And that's exactly what he did. The wolf took a deep breath, and with one mighty blow, the entire straw house came tumbling down, scattering straw all over the meadow. Silly Pig let out a squeal and bolted out of the ruins, running as fast as his little legs could carry him. He didn't stop until he reached Fiddly Pig's stick house, pounding on the door in a panic. "Let me in. The wolf is coming." Fiddly Pig, startled by his brother's distress, quickly let him inside. They both huddled together, hoping the wolf would give up and go away. But the wolf was anything but deterred. He strolled up to the stick house, grinning at the prospect of not one, but two pigs for dinner. Little pigs, let me come in," he called out in his best innocent voice. "Not by the hair on our chinny chin chins." The brothers yelled back in unison, trying to sound braver than they felt. "Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in," the wolf declared. And with that, he took an even deeper breath than before, puffing out his chest. He blew with all his might, and just as easily as the straw house, the stick house came crashing down, sticks flying in every direction. The two pigs squealed in terror and ran for their lives, not stopping until they reached Practical Pig's brick house. "Let us in! Let us in!" they cried, banging on the sturdy door. Practical Pig, who had just finished tidying up, opened the door and ushered his brothers inside. "What's all this commotion about?" he asked, though he had a pretty good idea. "The wolf," Silly Pig gasped. "He's destroyed our houses." Practical Pig nodded, locking the door behind them. "Well, he's not getting in here," he said confidently. "This house is made of bricks, and it's as strong as can be." Outside, the wolf had caught up to the pigs and was circling the brick house, trying to figure out his next move. This house looked much sturdier than the other two, but the wolf was nothing if not determined. He knocked on the door, more out of formality than anything else, and sang out, little pigs, let me come in. Not by the hair on our chinny chin chins," the pigs shouted back, this time with more conviction, knowing they were safe inside the brick walls. The wolf's eyes narrowed. "Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in." He took the deepest breath he had ever taken, filling his lungs until he was sure he could blow down anything in his path. With a mighty gust, he blew at the brick house. The trees shook, the leaves rustled, and the wind howled through the meadow. But the brick house stood firm, not even a single brick out of place. The wolf was stunned. He tried again, blowing even harder, his cheeks puffed out like balloons. But no matter how hard he huffed and puffed, the house wouldn't budge. Exhausted and out of breath, the wolf sat down on the grass, panting and frustrated. Inside the house, the three pigs listened to the wolf's efforts, relieved and a little bit amused. "Maybe you should try a different tactic," Practical Pig called out through the window, unable to resist a bit of taunting. The wolf scowled. He wasn't about to give up, but he knew brute force wasn't going to work. After a moment's thought, he came up with a sneaky plan. "If I can't blow the house down, I'll just have to find another way in," he muttered to himself. The wolf circled the house, looking for any weak spots. That's when he spotted the chimney. A wicked grin spread across his face. "Perfect," he whispered. "I'll just climb down the chimney and surprise them from the inside." The pigs, of course, were watching him the whole time. They saw the wolf eyeing the chimney and knew exactly what he was planning. "He's going to try and come down the chimney," Fiddly Pig exclaimed. Practical Pig smiled. "Let him try," he said, heading to the fireplace. He quickly built a roaring fire, throwing on extra logs to make it as hot as possible. Then, just for good measure, he placed a large pot of water on the fire to boil. Meanwhile, the wolf was busy climbing onto the roof, grumbling under his breath about clever pigs and stubborn houses. He reached the top and peered down the chimney, rubbing his paws together in anticipation. "Here I come, little pigs," he cackled as he began his descent. But as the wolf slid down the chimney, he began to notice something: an unpleasant heat. The farther down he went, the hotter it got. By the time he realized what was happening, it was too late. With a yelp of pain, the wolf fell straight into the boiling pot of water, splashing and howling in surprise. The three pigs couldn't help but laugh at the sight of the soaked, singed wolf scrambling out of the pot and racing out of the house, his tail between his legs. "I think that's the last we'll see of him," Silly Pig giggled. And he was right. The wolf, thoroughly humiliated and in desperate need of an ice pack, never bothered the three little pigs again. He slunk back into the forest, muttering to himself about bricks and clever pigs. The three brothers, now safe and sound, decided to live together in the brick house from then on. Practical Pig was happy to share his sturdy home, and Silly Pig and Fiddly Pig learned a valuable lesson about the importance of good planning and hard work. They still loved to play and create, but they never skimped on the essentials again. And so, the three little pigs lived happily ever after in their strong, safe brick house, where no wolf could ever huff or puff enough to blow it down. And on quiet evenings, they would sit by the fire, telling stories of their adventure, always with a smile, knowing that together, they were unstoppable. Thanks for tuning in. For more enlightening content and a detailed summary, visit www.mybooksummary.com. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends. Let's inspire and empower each other.